What's up, fellas? Good to see everybody back for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. This is a very fun-loving and easygoing podcast. A bunch of fans talking a bunch of football, so pour yourself a drink and join in. Also, before we get rolling, we'll get some particulars out of the way. We have had a recent influx of a lot, and I mean a lot of new members. So welcome to the BGO family, new members. If you're just stumbling across us, you can please hook us up, catch us on YouTube, give us a like, a share, and a follow there. Also, you can catch us on all audio platform or podcast platforms. In case you don't want to look at our ugly mugs and you just want to hear our, raspy, nasty voices. In addition to that, you can catch us on all socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course at our home base at bgobsession.com. So, gentlemen, what's that?
I was going to say, after that introduction, I'm afraid to talk. Raspy, nasty voice.
Yes, Bob, baby.
Hey, one thing about our forum is that we've tried over the years to allow political discussion, and then and we failed miserably because one of the things about BGO is that we actually can talk football super passionately. We can even argue, get aggressive with each other, but we're all friends. And we just found that the politics thing doesn't go over too well. And we've tried about every possible way to let people talk politics, and we finally had to give up on it. But anyway, I bring that up because we all should give ourselves a little clap. I don't know if you watched it, Paul, being a Canadian, but I'm sure most of us stayed up into the wee hours watching the election process. So I'm burning on fumes. I don't know about you guys, but that's why I'm not drinking a cold one because I think my heart would stop. But anyway, we're here, man. We're here, and we are excited about the Steelers.
Well, I think we need to talk about something else before we start talking about the Steelers. Trade deadline was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Did something happen?
Exactly. Everywhere you look, actually, we are the either 1A or 1 as far as the most talked about and most influential trade, bringing in Marshawn Lattimore. So I think personally, I think that I don't know that I'm going to call it a home run yet because I've got some concerns with injury history. But I think with what we gave up for him, if you really break down the trade and look at the numbers, we gave up a third, but it was our third, which is projected to be bottom 5 in the draft right now. We still have the third round pick we got via Philly for Dotson that originally was Miami. That's a top 5 pick in the third round right now. So additionally, we gave up a 4, which again is in the bottom 5 of the projected to be in the bottom 5. Got back a 5, which is from New Orleans, which is projected to be a top 5 in the 5. So we might be dropping. I'm rambling. Anyways, what we gave up, I love the move, guys. What do you guys think?
I personally really like it. I like it from the sense that it helps us immediately this year. And whether the team thinks they can be a contender or not, that's irrelevant. The fact is we're 7-2. It helps us in the back half of our schedule against some teams that have some pretty good wide receivers. We have to play Philadelphia twice. We got to play Dallas twice. We know there's CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. We got the Falcons on our schedule as well. So immediately in the present, right now, it helps us against some pretty decent passing attacks. I love the fact, more importantly, that we basically gave up a third-round pick for, a top 20 cornerback in the league, arguably a number 1 cornerback on your team. Giving up a third-round pick, to me, is peanuts because we would have went into the draft this coming year with cornerback as probably our most significant need, and we would have had to probably use a first or second round pick to get a corner in that spot. And I don't think that a first or second round pick given where we're likely going to be picking in round 1 or 2, I don't think they're going to give you the caliber of player that Marshawn Lattimore is right now. So it helps us immediately this season in our playoff push, which is obviously unexpected. But more importantly, it gives you a player of significance at a major position in need while also opening up the rest of your draft to just stockpile talent.
I've seen the phrase force multiplier used in multiple places with regard to this trade. He takes the spot at the top of the cornerback depth chart, right? And I don't know whether Witt will put him on the number 1 receiver for the other team and have him shadow the guy, whether it's right, left, or whether he'll pick a side and stick him there. I don't know how this will work, to be honest with you. And maybe they don't know yet. Maybe they're going to have to get him in and take a look at it. But what I see here is we're no longer dependent on Benjamin St-Juste to be what he isn't, and that's a number 1 corner. I like St-Juste. I think he's a good kid. I think he plays pretty good cornerback, but I don't think he doesn't elicit memories of Darrell Green, Champ Bailey, or God help me, Deion Sanders. In the burgundy and gold. I'm not sure Lattimore will do that either, but he's a whole lot closer to being that than Benjamin St-Juste will ever be. Now St-Juste can be that number 2 guy and take the second guy, and we can slide San Ristel back inside and play slot where he was drafted to play slot. And in all honesty, if this move gives the defense an extra second, makes the opposition quarterback pat the ball one more time, I think we see the sacks go up significantly. And that's nothing but good things, right? I mean, what was the statistic I saw that kind of blew my mind? Lattimore's allowed 1 touchdown catch to opposition wide receivers in his last 50 games. That's mind blowing.
I think that was when it was man coverage too, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember seeing a qualifier on that, Derek, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I like it. I thought from the beginning that if they were going to trade, it needed to be for either a cornerback or a stud pass rusher. One of the two. I was never on that whole go get a wide receiver train. I really wanted a cornerback, and they went and did it. And I don't feel like we gave up the farm to do it. And the thing I really like about it is there's no guaranteed money left on this contract at the end of the year. So we get to try this guy out and kick the tires for the rest of the season. And if he's not a good fit culturally, we can part ways next year without.
They already know he's a good fit. They're not bringing guys in where that's a question mark and giving up draft picks. They know they wanted him and that he's going to be a good fit.
Well, I know. That's my assumption.
May not be a good fit. St-Juste, I have a lot of questions about, and I think St-Juste is not absolutely a lock to be on the roster next year. Despite, I think we could draft a guy too, because I'm not sure St-Juste is at number 2 either.
I'd be shocked if we don't draft a guy. St-Juste is a free agent next year.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll bring him back, and I think too he's had some questionable decisions off the field that are concerning, and that anyway, we'll see what happens. But I really didn't think we'd do anything. I was on record like we're going to stand pat because they love those draft picks, but obviously they saw an opportunity, and like we've kind of alluded to, it's different when you're getting up against a trade line when you're 6-2 and leading again, half a game ahead of everyone in the NFC East, and that's all of a sudden that developmental season that Derek talked about becomes, well, we might develop our way deep into the playoffs. It's a little bit different, I don't think anyone expected us to be here, or I know I didn't.
Right, and so to touch a couple things, one, you're right. The developmental that I've always said, and I've stood on it, that this year is not necessarily about 2024. Well, that went out the window 3 games ago when we bounced back after losing to Baltimore, and then have now gotten to the point where we're literally 7-2. We're the second ranked team in the conference. Now it's you're not mortgaging your future. You're not giving up to go all in for 2024. But this move is clearly useful potentially beyond 2024. You bring in Lattimore, and like Bob said, yeah, there's no guaranteed money past this year, but there's still 2 years of control. So if this guy works out, you still have 2 more years of him potentially, and you could easily rework some things in there to add some guaranteed money with an extension. And he's 28. He's not the youngest guy in there, but to your point, Sanderson's coming up. If you draft a guy high, we could see now another turnover at corner, similar to what we saw at linebacker, going into next season, depending on what happens with Forbes. Some other things kind of to elaborate too, Bob, is how do we know that they don't leave St. Just on the number 1 with safety help and isolate Lattimore on a number 2 where he's a clear plus? There's just so much more flexibility. Where maybe we can bring Chin down into the box. And John and I kind of talked about this and when we were talking about the game against the Giants. But what does this do to our rush defense? Where now we might have been playing the last 9 games with the mentality of our biggest liabilities in the secondary. So we'll give up a 12-play drive, giving up 4 to 5 yards of carry, as long as we don't give up the 3-play drive for 75 yards and a passing touchdown. Where does that change the way that this defense can be called on a regular, down in and down out basis, and how far does this reach actually go to assisting in the rest of the defense? So with that, we can move on. I don't have a ton of notes on Pittsburgh. I think, and you guys tell me I'm wrong, I think this is right now probably our game of the year. I don't think anybody really believed we were going to beat Baltimore, and when we played them, we were clearly a step behind them. I think we beat Pittsburgh, and we have supplanted our flag that we are legit. We really start to turn more heads if that happens.
So I'm going to run through some numbers here. Of course, everyone knows the Steelers are 6-2, first in the AFC North. The teams that they've beaten, they played a couple good teams, but here's the guys they've beaten so far. They beat the Falcons, Broncos, and the Raiders all on the road, and they beat the Chargers, Jets, and Giants at home. So you got some turkey teams in their win list there. They lost to the Colts and the Cowboys. So, but before anyone on Twitter starts tweeting at us saying there's no way we should be favorites in this game or whatever, they lost to the Colts and the Cowboys, which neither of those teams are juggernauts in 2024. But I just wanted to run through. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention before I move on to like some of the stats on offense and defense for them, they're probably viewing this as a must-win game, and I'll tell you why I say that. Not that they don't respect the season we're having, but they still have to play the Ravens twice, the Bengals twice, and then the Eagles and the Chiefs. They have an absolutely killer back end of the schedule. So they're probably looking at this game as well. At least we have a chance in this one. Not that they're not capable of beating any of those teams, but I think they're probably viewing us as lower hanging fruit. As far as their stats, I'll just run through these real quick. On offense, they're overall 19th in yards, 13th in points. Their rushing attack is much more highly rated than their passing attack. They're 8th in yards on the rush and 11th in touchdowns. They're only 26 in passing yards. Now, yeah, a lot of that is probably because they didn't have Russell Wilson back there, but 27th in passing touchdowns. So they're almost bottom of the league in passing so far, if you look at the whole season. On defense, overall, they're 9th in yards against the yards and 2nd against points. And again, their rushing defense is outstanding, 4th in yards given up, 3rd in touchdowns given up. Their passing defense is a lot more vulnerable. 21st in yards given up, 6th in touchdowns. And then just a couple other miscellaneous stats, and I'll shut up and we can let you guys talk. 39.4% on third down conversions compared to us at almost 46%. 62.5 on fourth down conversions, which sounds fantastic until you look at the Commanders, who are setting records, 11 for 11 on fourth down. We have yet to knock fourth down. I mean, I'm kind of like, why don't we just not punt ever again? They're 46.4% in the red zone. We're 51.2%. The bad news for Washington is that RD is giving up 69.2% in the red zone. So that's not a good mile marker. But anyway, that's kind of the overall picture there. Really good rushing attack, really good rushing defense, susceptible on offense in the passing game and on defense against the pass.
John, that was great analysis. I'm going to piggyback off of your statistics because there's one thing that really jumped out at me about the Steelers. You were alluding to their strength being their defense and how solid they've played on the defensive side of the ball this year. I was doing a little bit of digging myself, and I discovered that they've given up only 45 total points in 8 games in the second half of football games this season. In my opinion, it is absolutely imperative that we can play ahead against these guys and play with a lead and convert on opportunities when we get down in their territory. They have 2 second half shutouts this year where they've given up 0 points in the third and fourth quarter defensively. And then they have an additional 2 games on top of that where they only allowed 6 or fewer points in the second half. So I think it's going to be a game that comes down to coaching. I think adjustments in game by Cliff Kingsbury are going to be huge and going to be a critical part of our success this week. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a game that will hinge as much on coaching and coaching strategy as anything else for us come Sunday.
To that point, I'm a little nervous because, look, say what you will about Tomlin, the guy's a winner. You know what I mean? Like, he's is it 12, 11 consecutive seasons, 12 consecutive seasons above 500?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe he struggles in some of the postseason and things like that, but you don't get your way to winning more games than you lose that often without having some chops about you. So I agree with you, Paul. This is probably going to come down to coaching. The good news is, though, this used to be a game that you would look at and say, for how long? We're going up against Tomlin, and we just need to get lucky because we don't really have faith in our coaching staff. Now I believe that I've got enough faith in our coaching staff that we'll be able to be competitive. And look, every team is due a dud. It happens. It could happen this week. But I think we're all pretty confident that we're going to have a good game plan in place, that the people play calling now are smarter than us, right? Because we used to make calls that were like, why do we see it and you don't? But I think that's gone now. So but I think this is going to be a dogfight.
They're also coming off a bye week, and this is the second, I believe, the Giants were coming off a bye week, right? Am I wrong about that? So I don't know why the NFL does that to us, where we have to go 2 straight weeks with teams that have had 2 weeks to prepare for us. But I guess somebody has to get the short end of the stick.
They've been doing that to us for 20 years, man.
So I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm probably going to sound cocky whether I mean to or not. I don't think it makes a difference. It's not to say I don't think Pittsburgh doesn't have a pretty good team. I do. I don't think they're as good as maybe people are thinking they are, because I look at the teams that they played. They lost to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys don't look like all that a bag of chips at the moment. the other team that they lost to Indianapolis, who can't figure out who their starting quarterback is. And we all know what Bill Parcells said about that. If you've got two, that means you don't have one. So, that Indianapolis doesn't look great. The only team on their list that I'm impressed with is Atlanta, and that was the first week of the season when Atlanta hadn't been playing any of their starters at all during the preseason. Pittsburgh had been playing Justin Fields. He didn't come into this cold. And so they had a pretty good game. And Kirk Cousins looked horrible. He hasn't looked horrible here recently. I think that'd be a different football game if they played today. So I'm not saying I'm comfortable, but I'm reasonably okay with this football game, especially since Pittsburgh comes to us. If we were playing in Pittsburgh, I'd probably feel a little differently about it. They're not quite as intimidating at home as maybe the Seahawks are, that type of thing. But still, man, Pittsburgh defends that home field turf pretty readily. That quarterback guy's pretty good, though. He's not going to run on us, but he's a slippery guy. He gets away and he makes plays off script. So I'm a little worried about that. Anybody know if Lattimore's playing? Have we heard yet? No, he's coming off an injury.
He was at practice today. He did not participate, but they have not said anything about what his expected game status is. John, did you post the injury report today on the official team thread? Was he on it? I haven't looked yet. I just saw something pop up.
I don't know. I posted it, but I didn't look at it. How about that?
Hey, it sounds like me.
I bring it up because while we're kicking around trades, Pittsburgh just picked up Mike Williams from the Jets yesterday, too. Not a small deal there, right? That's another big name wide receiver to go with Pickens. So,
yeah, Lattimore's on the report. It says DNP, did not practice, which we knew. So, I think, honestly, I would be kind of surprised. I think he suits up. Most likely, but I don't think we're going to see him get some lion's share of the snaps yet. I mean, to ask a guy to come in and have 3 days to get a firm grasp of the defense is a lot. And if he gets it, I think that's a testament to him and coaching. But to be fair, you got guys like Bobby Wagner in the field who every play can tell Lattimore where he needs to be and what he needs to do. You know what I mean? Like, so who knows?
If they bring Lattimore in to do nothing but play man coverage on some specific packages, he doesn't need to know what's going on. As long as
you see number 16 cover that guy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a little bit like street football. I got a stat of my own, John, that I tripped over on Twitter this week, and I haven't gone and confirmed this. So if you guys are out there in Never Neverland and you go look it up and Bob's wrong, don't at me because I'm just throwing it out there because it looked fun. Washington is the first team in the history of stats in the NFL to average over 42.5 yards a drive for the first 9 games of any season. No offense in the history of the NFL has ever done that before.
We also haven't lost a home game yet in 2024. I don't know how far back a 5-0 home record will go. I guess we'll find out next week if we manage to pull it out. I'm kind of like, I don't know what Russell Wilson are we going to get?
Yeah.
And they've struggled to score points. They're averaging 22 points a game. Now they've done a little better over the last couple of weeks since he came back, but I mean, I'm kind of the mindset that if we can put up 30, which we're routinely doing, that I think we've got a pretty good chance of knocking them off. Of course, that's easy to throw that number out there, but you got to get to 30. It takes a lot.
Yeah, if we
30 plus
if
points.
we get to 30, I feel really damn. I don't think this is a shootout game. I think this is I think they're going to come out. They're going to try to run the football. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think they're going to have to sell out to try to stop the run. And part of that is going to be to spy Jaden. They're going to
totally disagree, but I'll wait till we do predictions to explain why.
Okay. But
so, what do we think about their offensive weapons? They've got some good wide receivers. They've got they got some good running backs. Najee Harris being the most notable one, 136 yards for 592 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's got another 150 plus yards of receiving. They've got you mentioned George Pickens a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's more than halfway to 1,000 yards on the season, although he only catches 48% of the balls thrown his way, which whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, that's a big asterisk to me, because what he should, he could have a lot more. And I don't know if that's the quarterbacking, because I don't watch all those games, or whether he's just not holding on to the football.
Yeah, I feel like Santana Moss was a victim of a couple seasons where he was only getting 50% because that was only the number that were actually catchable, that they were in his vicinity. You know what I mean?
And then they've got Pat Fryermuth, who we know. And one thing that I think is really great about 2024 is we are not getting gutted by the no-name tight end of the other team. Like in past years, it seems like that would always be an issue for us. And it didn't matter whether it was a big name tight end or just a tight end coming off the
Jason
bench.
Witten made Pro Bowls based on playing us.
Yeah. And I haven't really seen that happen. And I think Bobby Wagner has a lot to do with that, by the way, roaming that middle of the field.
One of the things that concerns me about their wide receiver group, I was taking a look at them a little bit earlier today. They got some real height on that unit.
Mm-hmm.
Pickens and Williams, who Bob was just talking about a while ago, they're 6'4" and 6'3" respectively. And then they got Van Jefferson. He's 6'1". Our corner unit is a little bit on the smaller side. We got obviously Sainer Still, who's under 6 feet. So is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'm going to call him Noah I. They're both under 6 feet. Lattimore is 6 feet on the dot type thing. Our only corner with some real height is St. Just, and he's not particularly playing well. So that height advantage, I don't know if it comes into effect, but it's kind of worrisome.
They've also got Austin as their punt returner. He's had a 70-yarder this season. Averages like 13, 15 yards a return on punts. So that's a guy to watch. They've got a really good kicker, Chris Boswell, who has only missed one all season, kind of like our guy. I think he's missed 2. Or he had 1 blocked. He's only really missed 1, Siebert. And both of these guys have missed a 50-plus yarder. Hasn't missed on any extra points, though. So they get anywhere in field goal range. They're pretty well set with the kicker that they have. Anyone on defense that you guys are terrified of?
Yes.
Yeah, the defensive player of the year.
That guy. What's his name?
I have another guy, but I'll let you guys talk.
You have another guy?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody knows who I'm talking about. Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Joey Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that some of us
your draft made.
the guy that some of us probably wanted to draft a couple years ago when we instead drafted Emmanuel Forbes. And if you look at Joey, yeah, if you look at the way Joey Porter Jr. has played this year, it's quite exceptional. He's played against some pretty solid receivers, and those guys have been shut down this season. Malik Neighbors, he had 7 catches for 71 yards against Pittsburgh. Not too shabby, but it's not, anything over the top either. Drake London was held to 2 catches for 15 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 5 catches for 62 yards against Porter, and Cortland Sutton down in Denver was held to 1 catch for 26 yards. So, those are some pretty good receivers that were held to pretty pedestrian numbers against Joey Porter. And I think that guy's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to kind of stick it to us this coming Sunday as well.
Yeah. Other than that, we're, in years past, I think we would all be super nervous that we're going into the revenge game of Preston Smith, as he also got traded to the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. Which
defensive end?
Yeah.
He left us for Green Bay.
And he just got traded to Pittsburgh yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, did he? Oh, I missed that. Yeah, he left. Did he? He didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be I don't think he's going to have any major effect, but it will be interesting to see what their pass rush can do. Obviously, with Watt and they have Highsmith. Is that his name? Highsmith, the other defensive end. They can get it, man. They can get after the quarterback. They can get and they can be nasty and disrupt some stuff in the backfield. So I think that's going to be a big part of it is we're going to have to get them spread out laterally, and we're going to have to really get them moving side to side because I don't think we're going to be able to go down just straight up bully ball.
I think there's one thing that we got to keep in mind, and I'm gonna bring up the C word, complementary. And by the way, complementary football. It's COMPLEMENTARY. Complementary football would be like, wow, you play really good football. You're incredible. Complementary football, okay. But last week the defense kind of stunk up the house a little bit, by all accounts, right? And it was the offense last week. The mirror image of the week prior to that, the offense had to pick up the slack and win the game for us. So I think it's going to – and I heard that with guys going into the locker room we're talking about, the offense bailed us out on this one. So I think that they're going to come out with a little bit of attitude in this game on the defensive side of the ball and want to do a lot better against the Steelers. So,
John, you're telling me that I've been spelling complimentary football wrong for the last 15 years
well,
on this site.
We can go out on dictionary.com and confirm that. But
no, I believe you. It's just, yeah.
I was an English major for like 3 minutes, so I don't know.
And I'm a teacher, and I never knew that. So
I think the other secret weapon is Derek and I were talking about. You hadn't noticed the title of the podcast tonight is Terrible Towels versus Hail Hankies. The team announced today that the swag they're giving out at the game is burgundy and gold towels. So apparently we're really afraid of those little black towels getting waved around because we're going to have our own towels on Sunday.
Look, I think outside the box thinking it's a brilliant move because if there's one thing that annoys the living hell out of you, it's seeing those stupid gold towels getting waved. Yellow towels getting waved by Steeler fans. Well, let's just compliment them with burgundy towels. So then now it's burgundy and gold towels getting waved all over the stadium. So I think it's an awesome, almost borderline trolling promotion that I just hats off to ownership for, putting it in place. It's fantastic.
I think we ought to show up in our black uniforms. I don't know what are we wearing. I don't know who to.
I have a couple people. On the board that would like to have a word with you, John.
I think it'd be funny if we showed up in the black uniforms and Russell Wilson threw the football to our guys 5 times.
Hey, if it works, it works.
That's right.
So, do we want to? Are we got anything else to say in general about the game, or do we want to dive into
one other name on defense I do want to point out is one that we all are familiar with because we wanted to target him in the offseason is Patrick Queen. That guy is a game wrecker in the middle of that defense. So I don't think he's playing as well as he was in Baltimore since going to Pittsburgh, but I also don't think I'm not going to sit here and say he's not good. So that's another name we need to be, keep an eye on, especially if we want to get our run game going.
So I don't know who it was that just mentioned a few minutes ago that coaching might come into play or be a big factor. Their defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, he's in his 3rd season with the Steelers, and it was DC for the Lions for 5 seasons. So he's got a ton of experience. And on the offensive side of the ball, they hired Arthur Smith, who got canned last year.
In Atlanta.
He was a pretty good head coach. I just think he didn't have a decent quarterback to work with. But Arthur Smith is the first-year OC after getting fired last season.
He did some weird shit in Atlanta, though. He had some it felt like he had a head scratcher a week.
Yeah, he did. You're right about that. So, and that's kind of the reason I brought him up, even though I think he's a good coach. There might be some risk-taking behaviors that we see on display.
Well, we're
What
ready
do you
to
guys
call it.
think, man? Who wants to go first tonight?
Did you write us down in a random order, Derek?
I'll call you out. I got you. What you got, Paul?
Oh, you're making me go first.
I am.
Okay. Given what I've said tonight, I think you guys probably know where I'm going to go with this. I'm picking Pittsburgh. I've always been one who has believed that when push comes to shove, elite defenses are always going to win out over elite offenses. If you gave me a choice of entering a Super Bowl matchup, winner take all situation, do I want the elite defense or the elite offense? I'm taking the defense every time. That all being said, Pittsburgh offensively isn't one of those one-dimensional teams. The offenses that we lost to this year, or the teams that we lost to, their offenses weren't one-dimensional in Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Pittsburgh gives us their share to defend against in the Pickens and Williams combination at wide receiver. They got solid backs in Harris and Warren. And Russell Wilson still poses a threat in terms of his ability at this point in his career. They're sneakily 13th in points per game offensively, so they're not a slouch. They got a lot of weapons that we have to plan and prepare for. Ultimately, I think that the game is going to come down to what are secondary pieces on offense do against Pittsburgh's number 2 and 3 corners in Dante Jackson and Beanie Bishop Jr. Those guys have been having pretty solid seasons. They've each got 3 interceptions, and they've each got 5 or 6 passes defended as well this year. They're playing really, really good football, and I'm not sure that our collective group of secondary receivers in McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Zacchaeus, I don't think that those guys have enough on the outside and in the slot against a very, very good defensive secondary group in Pittsburgh, because I think that Joey Porter is going to do a pretty good job against Terry McLaurin this year. So I think we're going to have to rely on our other weapons, and I think Pittsburgh's got enough to deal and handle those guys and deal with them. I'm picking the Steelers 27-16, unfortunately.
All right. I guess I'll go next so you guys don't think I'm singling you out. Paul, basically everything you said, except I think this is a little different. I don't know what it is. The mojo is different. We're at home. In years past, that has not been a thing. It seems like it is becoming a thing big time. I actually think we are going to be able to do some things, especially with Jaden breaking pocket and kind of driving them crazy a little bit. I am actually going to take Washington. It's not going to be pretty. It hasn't been for the last 3 weeks really pretty. There's been glaring issues, but I think we end up pulling this one out in a dogfight, and we find ourselves at 8-2 for the first time in God knows how long. Final score is going to be 25-21. And I only say 25 because it seems like we do weird shit when we play the Steelers. Weren't they the ones that had one of those games a couple of years ago that finished some weird odd number, 15-13 or something, and we were the only team that had ever done it, and we did it back-to-back weeks? Anyways. John, what do you got, bro?
So Mark just sent me his prediction.
Okay, we can do Mark first.
Yeah, Mark has Washington winning 86-6. Emmanuel Forbes has his first 6 interception game. 4 of those are pick sixes. So I don't know what I'm not sure I can go there with Mark, but
86-6.
That's what happens when you don't get your prediction in on time. Is we just make shit up. So yeah, 86-6 Commanders. So I think this game. First of all, I'm kind of in the mindset, and I know Mark, in all seriousness, would say the same thing, that he's not going to bet against this team until there's a reason to. So I'm not going to bet against them at home. I think this could be a game where they go full air raid. And I may have said that one other time this year. I don't think that Cliff Kingsbury is inclined to go full air raid. But the reason I say I think it could be a possibility is that I mentioned they're only averaging 22 points a game. They're much less stingy in their passing defense than they are in their run defense. And I think if we put up 30 points on them, then it's highly likely we win the game. I think it's going to be tough to run against them. I think we'll try like we did against the Giants, but we didn't. And I guess we did have some success later down the road against the Giants. But I just think the way to beat the Steelers is through the air. So the keys to the game for me are stop the run on defense, because even though I respect Russell Wilson, but he also is prone to forcing balls and making mental mistakes at crucial points, especially the last couple of seasons. So I think you want to take it away. You want to get them away from pounding the ball because they're pretty good at it, and you want to put it in his hands. And then on the offensive side, because their rush defense is so good and their passing defense is not nearly as good, I think we'll run enough to keep them honest, but I think we're going to have to win it in the air. So I have Washington winning 34-27, and I think we pick off Russell Wilson late in the game to seal it.
Would that be Forbes?
No, Forbes didn't play it down last week, and I don't think he'll play it down this week.
How poetic would it be if Lattimore got an interception? What do you got, Bob?
If I have a concern this week, it's actually the middle of our line. We're already missing John Allen for the rest of the season, and we didn't even talk about Mathis, who's in the concussion protocol at the moment. And I don't obviously have no insight as to where he is, but I think it would be a little surprising if he played this next week. Teams seem to be much more likely now to err on the side of setting a guy a week than trying to rush them back once they're into the concussion protocol. So we're going to be thin at defensive tackle if that happens. And I'm a little worried about the middle of the line against a great running team. Najee Harris is no slouch. But at the same token, we figured out how to deal with New York last week, and New York came out, seemed hell-bent on doing nothing but running the football. That entire first drive was nothing but rushing plays. And I think they rushed all but one play on the second drive or something. And they were moving the football pretty well. But this defense reminds me a lot of the old Pettibone defenses where it does that bend but don't break kind of thing. And we seem to have a real backbone that shows up significantly more the closer we get to our own goal line. It's not perfect, obviously. I mean, we're giving up some points, but I feel fairly good about it. I also feel fairly good about our ability to make Russell uncomfortable. And he is not the same quarterback he was 3, 4, 5 years ago. He can still hurt you playing off script, but it's not the same Russell Wilson that just positively terrorized the NFL when he was really playing well. The other side of the ball, nothing seems to ruffle Mr. Daniels. Absolutely nothing. And I don't see anything on the Pittsburgh side of the ball to indicate to me that this week it's going to be any different. Not that they don't have a great defense. They absolutely do. And I fully expect them to get home a couple of times. I also expect Jaden to shrug it off, get up, and go hurt him somehow. Shocker! I'm expecting one of the two rookies to have a big week this week. Either McCaffrey or Sennett, I think, has a big week against this defense. John, I can totally see the full air raid thing where we come out and ask Jaden to throw the ball 40 times. For the first time ever, right? And it's a lot of screen passes and, wide flares and, funny stuff that maybe we haven't seen a lot of before because we're just trying to replace the swing game with a short passing attack. And we've got the receivers that can do that. Although I also see the possibility for De'Ami Brown to actually stretch the field on these guys. I'm going to say 31-21 Washington.
Mm.
I don't feel like Pittsburgh's played a team like us this year. And to follow in John and Mark's shoes, I'm not betting against the horse that's winning as long as it's winning. That just seems kind of dumb. So, no offense, Paul, I'm not calling you dumb. Just to be, you know, on the up and up. You're one of the sharpest guys I know. But
to be fair, also when we're talking about defensive ends, and this just dawned on me. Well, it didn't just dawn on me, but to think about it, it's not like we've been going up against chumps either. You know, we have faced Myles Garrett, we have faced Brian Burns, we have faced what's his name?
Thibodeau early in the season.
Thibodeau twice now. We have
he was out. He didn't play
he was out. Okay. But Dexter Lawrence, we faced Dexter Lawrence. You know,
Yep.
I mean, so this offensive line has been battle tested. So maybe I need to give them a little more credit.
All right.
Well, gentlemen, if that's everything we got for tonight, obviously, if anybody out there in listening land or has made it this far, please give us a like, a share, and a follow. Hook us up with some social media love. If you want to watch us and follow along, share a drink with us, you can on YouTube. And as always, please come hook us up on bgobsession.com. Everybody's welcome, totally free, and we love to have you. So on that note, gentlemen, that'll do, pigs.